All right. We are live. Welcome to another week, everybody. It's Friday already, which is crazy how fast time flies, but the older you get, the faster it goes. So appreciate that time goes a little slower when you're younger. But welcome to another episode of Amazon Seller News Live. Got some good stuff today. Several LinkedIn posts that piqued my curiosity. I think are going to be really fun to talk about. So I'm looking forward to that. But we've got Noah Wickman on the show today. He's from My Amazon Guy. So welcome, Noah. And then Jackson Trigg. He's from Amazon Storage Pros. So welcome back, Jackson. Noah, I think, is going to be joining us every once in a while now, in addition to the rest of us. So that's going to be fun. But of course, cool. Todd Welch, I'm the host of the show. So let's go ahead and dive into the news. Number one here, we've got more information on the Amazon's new low-cost store. So this is according to, and I'm gonna unfortunately probably butcher his name, but Josas Zinkanas.
Yeah.
Horrible. Sorry about that.
If that's like a Greek name or something.
Yeah, but it says Amazon's new low-cost store aims to attract budget-conscious shoppers by removing brand names and pricing all items under $20. This model leverages Amazon's supply chain in China, bypassing customs tariffs for slower 9 to 11 day deliveries and offering returnless refunds to minimize cost. So a lot of details here, as you can see, but I think a couple of the two big ones there that I noted was that there's going to be no brand names. And everything has to be under $20, and it's going to take almost around 2 weeks for delivery, and you do not have to return items. They're going to just give you your money back if you don't like it. So initial thoughts on that one, Noah?
I think a lot of people are stuck on this whole Temu, Shein, TikTok shop hype train with all of the kind of really low priced sellers. It reminds me a lot of, nearly a decade ago when like AliExpress was coming up, right? Mm-hmm. And there was another one, like Waze or whatever it was, right? And so I think it honestly is just kind of, if somebody's planning on buying something on Temu, I think they may switch over to Amazon's low cost, but from the aspect of it affecting the general seller at this point in time on like regular Amazon, I don't see it as that big of a hindrance. It definitely is something to be worried about because, I wonder how many people who are selling under $20 are going to try and switch over there. But realistically, nobody's going to buy a $20 futon, and those that will buy that $20 futon should know they're not going to get a quality product, and they probably also know that. So I don't know. I think that it's a little bit overhyped. I get why Amazon's doing it. Just, take out the, fish they're kind of growing when you can. But I don't think for the average seller, it's going to make that big of a difference. You're not going to see that huge of a sales decrease if you have a really well-branded product that is $18.99. You're not going to see someone start switching over to some no-name brand instead of yours that is, wasn't already a competitor, I should say.
Yeah, Jackson, what do you think?
Yeah, it makes me think of a lot of things, but first thing I would say is it honestly just kind of makes me sad because it's like the state of the American consumer, in a sense. It's almost like we're going back in time where, China has become a manufacturing powerhouse of a lot of really quality stuff. It's just the reality, right? And it's almost like because of economic factors and customer psychology and whatever else, we're reversing to like earlier times when China was known as the cheap, crappy manufacturer of things. And that's becoming popularized because maybe what is my second thought, which I know it's faux pas to get political, but this is like a perfect meme scenario to hear someone like Kamala Harris saying, "We're proud of Bidenomics," because it's like, why is this even a thing? It's because people are struggling, and so they're forced to go down this road when I think most people probably wouldn't, right? Anyway, the other thing that comes to mind is like, isn't the loophole on China drop shipping costs getting closed? I thought I heard that was getting closed. Is this some secondary level of it that I'm not aware of?
That's a good question, because yes, we did report on that they're closing that loophole. It does note here, that they will be able to avoid tariffs. At least he does in his post. So I'll have to look real quick and see if I can find something that maybe there's another level of it, that if it's under $20, that might be why
maybe. Yeah.
the $20 deal is there. But I'll ask ChatGPT here and get back to you.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. The other thought is just like it's I'm losing my train of thought now. It might have disappeared. Yeah. So you remember there was a time where Amazon was cracking down on if you were drop shipping on your listing, right? Now it's like they're basically saying, here's the proper place to drop ship. So it's almost like on one side they're saying this is bad, you shouldn't participate in this. It's like, well, actually we're going to make this little arena where we're cool with this, even though it's just like, it's lame. In my mind, I'm just, this whole market, I just sort of personally, philosophically disagree with it, in the sense that this is not healthy consumerism. Not that there necessarily is healthy consumerism, but we all make our livings off of consumerism, right? So it's kind of like there is, but you guys have probably seen the SNL skit about like Shine and Temu, right? And how it's like, chemicals and all sorts of not desirable things being found in these cheapo products that are basically, it's like you're just buying off of like the gray black market, almost, in a sense of regulation and safety and stuff like this. And so I'm personally paranoid about bringing any of these products into my house, because it's like, okay, is it going to have like 10 times as much of forever chemicals coating it in the manufacturing process compared to some? That's just me though, right? So
I think the really interesting thing here, though, that we've kind of skipped on a little bit, is specifically that bullet about the fulfillment fees and how they're essentially kind of saying how that's going to work. And that, I think, is the most interesting part of them saying, yeah, exactly, where it's 50 cents for products 4 ounce and less, under $3, 99 cents for apparel. Like this,
super cheap.
Super cheap. But also makes me almost wonder, has Amazon already done essentially that kind of calculation, seeing how much market share for under $20 items these different sites have kind of taken, and are now just realizing that, I mean, it's no joke that in the last, I would say 5, 6, 7 years, many people are getting just, demolished by Chinese brands on the platform and whatnot. It's because they can just sell it for cheaper. Now, I don't think that aspect of Amazon is going to go away just because they do this, especially because they have the generic now. I'm almost wondering if like this is a play for them, simply just of we realize we can get, these other people on platforms, and we're going to push this very heavy with our new TikTok shop partnership and go from there. Right. Like, I'd be kind of curious if that's entirely what this is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see for sure. I've got definitely a couple thoughts, but I asked ChatGPT. So the current level is $800. Anything under that is duty free. Biden's proposal is to basically exclude China and certain other nations from that exemption, was what his thought was. But there's another legislative proposal that would reduce it down to certain different levels for different countries, like $162 for Germany, $170 for UK, etc.
Okay.
And then possibly also blacklisting other countries. So
Mm.
the $20 that may not be a thing shortly, depending. I can almost guarantee you Amazon is probably spending millions of dollars on lobbying
for that. Yeah. No,
trying to stop the ban of TikTok, trying to stop the closing of the loophole, because if they're releasing this information now, they've probably been thinking about this for quite a while and working on it.
That makes perfect sense. Like it's $20 is them saying, okay, it's probably never going to be high, lower than this. So let's just go with this as a safety mechanism of we'll be able to keep operating.
Maybe. I think they're also trying to protect maybe a little bit of a protectionism for sellers on their regular platform, because they don't want to destroy Amazon.com and just turn it into, a garage sale. Even though garage sales probably have a lot of higher quality stuff than Temu does, but you get what I'm saying, just cheap stuff. But a couple things that I noticed is that everything is going to have to be fulfilled out of this fulfillment center in China. So to me, that's almost like a kind of a slap in the face to other countries that have big manufacturing centers, like Mexico and India, for example, which are two growing ones, and then Vietnam. You're just like excluding all other countries and just allowing China, which is kind of disappointing. I mean, I would prefer not to have this at all, but I guess if people are going to buy on these platforms, I'd rather an American company like Amazon take those sales than Temu or Shine or other ones like that. But that's one thing that stuck out to me. And maybe that's something that will change in the future, but it's kind of disappointing that it's only coming from China.
Yeah, especially with apparel. You'd think with apparel sales, they'd want to expand elsewhere, but whatever.
Yep. I do like that they're doing the generic brand name, though. I think will be a benefit to sellers who are building a brand, building quality products, because when you hear the word generic, which is what they're all going to have to be, you kind of automatically assume cheap, right? So people are going to know that it's going to be cheap stuff. They're not going to see the same brand name on Amazon.com and the low cost store, which that could be difficult if you're forcing the brand to basically compete against themselves on two different platforms from the same company.
Well, and it kind of also makes me wonder, especially with them essentially separating, regular Amazon from this in the app, at the very least, I'm guessing on the website, like, is generic the really only key differentiator between, essentially this and, like Amazon outlet deals, for instance? Like realistically, that's all Amazon outlet deals is just, a bunch of Chinese companies that aren't FBA, and they're selling for, $3-4, right? And so, I mean, that's kind of like the big thing. It almost seems like this could just be an outlet deals rebrand at the end of the day. Like, hey, you have a bunch of product that you're trying to sell off, label it generic and, sell it for $4.
Yeah, that's a good question. If you had a branded product and you're selling it on Amazon, and, Jordan Lee actually asked the question here, what are your thoughts on an aggressive low price launch strategy, maintaining for 9 to 12 months to rank and then gain profitability? Which we can dive into that, but it made me think about, what if your aggressive launch didn't work so well and you're left with a whole ton of products? It has a brand name on it. Could you jump over there and list it as generic, even though they're getting a branded product? And would that be a strike against you if they receive the product and it does have a brand name on it?
Yeah. Almost use it like a liquidation service at the end of the day.
Yeah. So that would be an interesting question, if the policy is going to be that it can't have a brand name, or if it just can't have a brand name in the listing.
So, okay. It dawned on me why it's only China, Todd. Being in the logistics space, it's like, I'm helping sellers deal with stuff coming out of like Pakistan and Sri Lanka. And Amazon's infrastructure to facilitate this is all China based, right? Like they've got AGL and everything. They're probably doing is trying to figure out ways that they can pack these stuff into existing shipments or whatever and simplify stuff. Like if you guys are familiar with sending MCF shipments to Alaska or Hawaii, and Amazon doesn't give you a priority option, and sometimes it takes like 2.5 weeks for a standard FBA product to go from a warehouse in the US to Hawaii or to Alaska. And it's like totally unnecessary, but it's because they're piling everything up and sticking it on a plane so they can get the best cost, right? And they're just letting it sit there and pile up. And I think they're probably going to be doing something like that with whatever their network is in China, where they're packing some sort of air shipment up as much as they can so they're getting the best rate over a period of time, and then boom, it all comes along. Something like that.
I wonder if that plays into the $20 thing again, like the 800 one, where you know it's no tariffs, but in reality, each one of those shipments they just have to figure out. Oh, you know, we can only put X number into one package.
That's what I think it is. Yeah, because they can get a certain amount of revenue margin or whatever with every $20 item, and then $20 means what, 40 units per individual air shipment coming across customs free, right? So
I asked ChatGPT, is there something relating to $20 coming from China? And it found some news articles from South China Morning Post and a few others. It says there is a discussion about a potential new $20 threshold specifically for Chinese goods as part of a proposed legislation in the U.S. Congress.
There you go. There you go. They lined it up.
Guarantee you Amazon's inside of that one.
Yeah, they lined it up. Yeah.
They paid some political person to introduce that one. So do we want to, before we move on to the other one, did you guys have any thoughts on Jordan Lee's question there? It's not exactly news, but we can answer it real quick. You might be the best, Noah. Do you have any thoughts on a low price launch strategy for 9 to 12 months of losing money and then turning to profitability?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, if you're looking at, you know, launching a product, and we actually have a great resource on our website kind of going over exactly this. I mean, I've constantly talked about essentially 50% discount as soon as you launch. You know, once you're past that kind of 50%, sell 50 units through at that 40% next, so on and so forth, up until you're kind of at your list price. Past that, the biggest aspect is just making sure you actually have an advertising budget. The amount of people that trying to launch on Amazon this day and age, like it's not 10 years ago where you could launch a brand with, you know, a $500 advertising budget and be like, I'm going to, you know, do 10K in sales off this. Like, that's just not how it is this day and age, you know? So the big thing that I'm always telling people is make sure you have an advertising budget that is also appropriate for your niche. If you're going into supplements, you can't work with $500 like you could in, you know, bird cages.
Yeah, $500 a day if you're in supplements.
There you go. There are keywords in the supplement category that literally are $40+ per click, right? So, and not gonna have 100% conversion. So, yeah, I mean, to answer that kind of question, biggest aspect is just make sure you have an advertising budget that's appropriate, and you know, past that as well. You know, when you're first launching, that first 4 to 6 weeks is like the most important when it comes to that. Yep. Every single month, you know, once a month, add new keywords for more indexing and ranking. Go from there.
Yep, for sure. And a really good person to probably follow would be Aaron Cadovis. He basically did that strategy with Zulai Kitchen. So maybe connect with him on LinkedIn and check out some of his stuff as well. A lot of really great information. Welcome, Danon.
Thanks.
Appreciate you joining us.
Hey guys, sorry I was late. I got held up at an offsite meeting.
No worries. It happens. Let's go ahead and move on to the next news here, and we'll dive in. All right. So new FBA shipment notifications for better visibility. This one is about time. Amazon is introducing enhanced notifications for FBA shipments to improve visibility around partnered carrier pickups and possible delivery disruption. Sellers using full truckload, less than truckload, or intermodal modes will now receive email alerts on any delays, changes in pickup details, or updates to the shipment destination. These notifications aim to help Amazon sellers adjust their inventory planning by providing clear details, including shipment ID, total pallets, cartons, and weights, etc. So, Jackson, thoughts on this? I would say about time that they actually let you know if they're not going to pick it up when they say they're going to.
Yeah, no, it's reminding me of like feedback surveys I've filled out for Amazon saying, no, this is not good enough. No, this is not good enough on like, their shipping plan settings and options. And yeah, no, this is good. It's a very good thing. I've seen like the early stages of it where I've gotten notifications that, a thing that was delivered a month ago that still hasn't received yet, that it's got a new date that it's going to get received, because like the Albuquerque warehouse in Los Lunas got backed up beyond belief at one point in time, and now the same thing's happening in California right now. But I really like that you can, if whenever it's integrated, where you can add an email at the end and have a specific email that's your contact for that's going to be helpful. And just anything where they make visibility better for what's going on with your shipment plans, because it's great when everything's running smooth. Your truckloads get picked up on time, they get delivered quickly, and they get received quickly, and everything feels nice and smooth. And then all of a sudden, you've got 3 shipments lined up, and none of them are getting picked up, and they're taking forever to receive when they finally get delivered, or they sit at a carrier intermediary point for several weeks, and all of a sudden you're scrambling to get stuff in through SPD and paying 5 times as much as you should be for stuff that you already sent in a month ago. So
for me, the big thing is going to be the pickup notifications, because that's in part why I stopped using Amazon partnered carrier for LTL pickups and started using Priority One and Freight Quote, because when I enter a shipment in with them and say it's ready on this date, 95% of the time they're picking up on that date, sometimes the same day. And almost always with Amazon, when I was using them, you'd set the date, they wouldn't show up. They wouldn't show up the next day. Sometimes it'd be 2, 3, 4, 5 days before they would pick up, and you'd have no idea when they're actually going to show up. So this might actually make me quote with them again anyways and see if their pricing is competitive.
Yeah, they did actually recently add something that's, I don't think it really functionally changes anything, but it gives the appearance of things being smoother, where when you get to the final point where you finalize the shipment for an LTL or bigger, right? You can select which carrier you want now. And sometimes the price points are different based on the date or the carrier. And so you can at least reference with your warehouse and be like, hey, you use the SCAC code or whatever for the carrier, and be like, are these guys reliable? Is it worth going with the lowest rate with these guys versus paying maybe $50 or $100 more for these ones? And you can at least have that discussion now. Although a lot of the codes they give are for carriers that you can't even look up. You don't know who they are. So it's kind of annoying.
Yes. It's very annoying. I'm going to try to piece that together or maybe make a post about it, but it's difficult with AWD.
Yeah, I'm sure if we just stockpiled like a list and then harassed seller support, we could maybe get the answer like after 500 replies or something. Yeah.
For sure. Any thoughts on this one, Danon?
Not from me, because I don't use any of this. So my manufacturer's in California, and when we need inventory, we just tell them ship it in. So and we deal in hundreds of units, not thousands or tens of thousands of units. We're selling a decently high dollar item. Although I may need to look into this soon, because we're about to go from like two SKUs to like 80. So we'll see. But
quite
for me,
increase.
2 to 80, that's a pretty big jump.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that I don't have to. I mean, Todd, I think you know my situation. But for Noah and Jackson, and hey, Noah, I'm Dana. Nice to meet you. We're connected on LinkedIn, but good to see you. So my situation is that I have exclusivity to a brand on Amazon. I don't have to pay for inventory. I don't have to pay for anything. I only tell them what to ship in, and then I pay them once a month for what's sold. So I have no cash out. I don't run ads. I rely upon the brand search of this is a fairly large brand. And so I don't run ads. Not that I'm suggesting that, but I don't run ads. And so for me, it's like ultra simple. It's probably is about as simple as you could get selling on Amazon. It's like I don't have any expenses. It's 5 hours a month just to replenish inventory and stuff like that. So, but
And that's a good business model. You're basically
It
doing
is.
consignment, right?
yeah. Well, I get the product on consignment. Yes. I'm
Yep.
essentially this company's Amazon department,
Yep.
right?
Very nice.
So, but we just take some profit off of sales, so it's actually cheaper for them. Probably at a certain point it won't be, but it's less expensive for them to not have to deal with it, not deal with the headache. All they have to do is manufacture and fulfill,
Cool.
But what I do think and what I do see is that Amazon has been between Accelerate and some other things that we're seeing. It looks like Amazon's making a real effort to provide more visibility and help sellers have a smoother time of things. So I will give them that. Them doing it right, that's a different story, but it looks like they are trying. They also, the last two accelerates, who here was at the last, any of the two? Okay, so Noah, did you go in and do any interviews with them?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you there that they are giving a little bit more, I think, visibility.
Yeah.
But it's almost like they're essentially giving visibility into, hey, we're not doing well, right? Which can be a positive and negative, right?
Yeah. I'd rather know than not know.
There you go.
Right.
There you go.
But yeah, so these last two accelerates, they've done a lot of interviewing of people. So I do think that the team is trying to make it better. It just cost us more for it to be better.
Yeah. Hopefully, I mean, always be improving is good.
Yeah.
Of course, fees have gone through the roof, so I think they owe us a lot more.
They sure as hell do.
Competition is also, the last story was talking about competition with Temu and Shine and TikTok Shop and all that. And while they're not nearly as big as Amazon yet, Walmart's in there as well.
Yep.
They're growing, and the competition is growing and chipping away slowly at Amazon. And maybe they recognize that and realize they need to start doing more. But we'll see. I might be wishful thinking as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that this competition is very much needed to kind of put a boot or a fire under Amazon's digital ass,
Yeah. Well, like I've said in the past, we need, whether it's Walmart, and I think they've got the deepest pockets to make it happen. But if we can have someone at least close to the same level as Amazon in terms of volume of e-commerce, and it gives sellers the ability to move to actually say, I'm done with Amazon. I'm not going to sell there anymore. I'm going to sell on Walmart and Shopify and my own places. Yeah. If that was ever possible and you could still make a living doing that, then you start seeing where the leverage comes back to the sellers instead of right now. It's pretty much all with Amazon just about.
Yeah.
I made a post on this literally yesterday because we started doing some data. I had some people on our team essentially kind of looking, see what is that gap. And right now, Amazon controls roughly 37% of all e-commerce sales. The next closest is every Shopify website combined. For only 10.6%. Wow. Walmart trails behind that at like 6.8. And so essentially Amazon controls more than the next highest 10 marketplaces combined. And so it's like, it's one of those things where when we see like the Temu, the Sheins and all of that, and Amazon changing for that aspect of things and like the TikTok shop, I almost wonder, like, yeah, if they lose a single percentage point of any, overall market share, that's billions of dollars to them, right? Versus, even if it's spread across a bunch of tiny competitors. I don't think we'll see anyone who will ever get to Amazon size, but I do think that we'll see more niche areas that will kind of pop up, like the
sure.
teams that have like a very specific purpose for it.
Yeah.
And that's what changes Amazon and makes them be more visible.
It's super cool.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what prompted Amazon to go into handmade, right? To have a handmade.
Yeah.
It was the Etsy stuff coming up.
That's right. Yeah. Tons of people going to Etsy. They wanted that handmade stuff. So Amazon did it. I think they royally screwed it up personally. But because I got invited into handmade, whenever it was that it came out, or had come out, I got invited to handmade and went, I don't have anything handmade. Sure, what the hell? I'll go into handmade. It's a new Amazon program. I'm in. So I actually up there, I started doing handmade knives.
Nice.
And I did great for a while until somebody who, may or may not have been handmade, but they had gargantuan amounts of inventory, undercut my price by 50%, and then boop, done. I'm out. And that wasn't, I don't even know if that was on handmade, because handmade just displayed it with everything else. So,
well, what I think is bad is that they will accept and allow as handmade, like a factory in China with 1,000 people putting the knives together. That's handmade, that's not really what people think about when they think handmade. They think Danon in your garage assembling some knives by hand, not on like mass assembly lines.
Right. And that's literally what I had. Like every single knife I did pass through my hands. I checked the grind on them. I would sharpen them, make sure they were oiled. And of course I didn't stamp the metal, right? But I know the people that did, right? And they use power hammers and stuff like that, just because you can't to literally hand forge a knife. That is, each knife is just tons of time. But anyhow, they were handmade. Mine were actually handmade. And I can't recall ever seeing anything on Amazon where it's like handmade. Oh, I want handmade stuff.
I bet you would have killed it on Etsy.
Yeah. Well,
but Etsy's kind of ruining themselves now too by allowing those mass assembled products in now.
Yeah, but what do you do? Right? You have, and I think, Todd, we've actually talked about this before, where Etsy is, call it, for the sake of math, 1,000 sellers selling their handmade handkerchiefs and stuff like that. And you have this opportunity to 10x the number of people selling on the platform, therefore potentially 10x the income of the company. Who wouldn't want that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's short-sightedness in my mind. I mean, because now you're expanding yourself out to compete more on Amazon's level.
Yeah. You're chasing profit rather than
on that.
Yeah. It's because you start chasing profit rather than delivering the original purpose of something.
Yeah.
Right. It's like
they would have went the other route and said, instead of going mass produced, we're going to go small handmade. Like, you need to prove that you're under 20 employees.
Yeah.
And that you're making this, truly handmade, and et cetera, et cetera. And I think if they went that route, their market might be smaller, but they'd have a lot more rabid, dedicated fans there.
I think so too. Yeah.
Honestly, if you want something handmade, just go to, a farmer's market.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what Etsy is supposed to be, right? That's what it was originally for.
The nationwide farmer's market.
Yep.
Yeah. It sort of
that's
felt
what it should be.
I actually tried launching a brand in handmade, doing jewelry back in 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
And some of it, it was like a mismatch sort of in the way, because the handmade section of Amazon is sort of cordoned off, where like the BSRs, you can't see where you are in comparison to the general broad. I don't know if that's changed since, but you can't really see where you are compared to your general competitors across the space, right? So you can't compare how much market share am I taking from this mass-produced Chinese product versus these other. You can't even see where you are in general because the data from like things like helium-10 doesn't pull properly. So you're just flying blind.
Yeah.
And then you're doing this competition against, things that are a third the price.
Yeah.
And it's just problematic. No, it was fascinating what you shared about the stats that you guys pulled up, or the post that you made, because it confirmed what my thought was going to be. I was going to be like, well, Amazon is completely dominating. And in my mind, the only chance you have at good alternative is if you have a product line that has the right niche and the right type of audience that you can build a Shopify store and have it be sizable and profitable. That's the only way. Because there's so many situations where I see products that they have their own website and it's the only way they operate. And I go, maybe I can help these people sell on Amazon. And I look on Amazon, I'm like, no, they could not sell on Amazon. So they have to stay on their website because that's the only place that they have a competitive advantage, right? So
Yep. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump on to the next news story. So this one is from Aaron Cordovez. And so what he noticed here is nothing necessarily new with the peak fees. So he's basically talking about that the peak fulfillment fees for Q4 went into effect on October 15th.
Yeah.
So everybody needs to be aware that your storage fees went through the roof here. But what was most interesting is, so this was before, right? Every year they would have this graph, the non-peak fees and then the peak fees.
Yeah.
But this year they switched it to only showing the new peak fees. There is no non-peak fees anymore. So the question is, are they just doing this, because they just want to show the peak fees currently, or are they not going to reduce them back down to non-peak fees?
I have a strong opinion on this.
Yeah, me too. So mine's short. So I am seeing, so I'm in the review business, right? I am seeing that Amazon is displaying less and less information that should be publicly available and known, so that my guess would be there's not so much of a backlash from people because they don't know what's not there.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the same thing, because every year Amazon gets a bunch of flack for just jacking the fees up because, it's our busy season. So people have to send in a ton of inventory. People have to do this for the holiday season. So let's make a shit ton of money on it. Right.
Yeah. So you don't think they want people to be able to compare what it was versus what it is now?
Exactly. Yeah. Because then if there's no comparison, then there was no spike. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or there was a spike, people know it, but they don't know how much until they realize, oh, wait, I have to go out of business because I'm not making any profit anymore. Right. Or they go, I've got to get rid of my Maserati because I can't afford to pay for that $1,700 payment anymore, something like that. Right.
Yeah.
So if I think that if anything, this is going to be like gas, right? It goes up to $4. It was $2.50. It goes up to $3.75 during the summer, and then it comes back to $2.68. And you're like, oh, thank goodness gas has come down.
Yeah.
Right. And then it goes up to $3.80 the next year. And you're like, oh my gosh, these gas prices. And then it comes down to $2.87. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's what they're going to
do. What I hear you're saying, you do think it's going to come back down, but maybe not back down to the former non-peak.
That's what I think. Yeah.
And they don't want you to be able to easily compare that.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Jackson, I'm really curious what you have on this.
Well, so I agree with part of what you're assessing there, that there's a good likelihood that the price it reduces to in January might not be the same price as what it's showing April to October.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I think this LinkedIn, or is it Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever, This
Lincoln.
post is just like such just clickbait hyperbole. Obviously, they're going down in January. Obviously.
I
Yeah,
just want to throw out there.
Yeah.
I think this post might just be entirely clickbait because I found the peak fees.
Oh, you did?
Still. Yeah. So
There
that's still
you go. Yeah.
that's
Share
still
that link.
available. Yeah.
Share
here.
that link, Noah. I think
Do you
can
mean you
put it-
found the
oh, yeah.
non-peak fees for next year? Is that what you're saying?
No, not for next year, but 2024 non-peak fees and 2024 peak fees. I honestly. So
You wanna?
where he
Are
is
you able to
at
share your
is-
screen, Noah?
Yeah, I can do
throw it
that.
up on there
Absolutely.
if you want. Just make sure you don't have anything
Yeah.
showing that you don't want seen.
Well,
Oh, you know me. I'm a live champion.
Oh, yeah. Here they are. Yep.
There we go. So, so this
Just
is
so
this
sorry,
is-
Noah. Just so everyone knows, if you want to see this, you need to be logged into your Seller Central.
yeah, you do. So, and just so everyone knows, I mean, what I searched, I believe, was just peak
fees.
holiday fees, and that'll pop up with a couple of different things. If you look for where is it, 2024, somewhere in here. Here it is. Well, that's remote fulfillment, but either way, it's 2024 peak fees. Here it is. It's under this 2024 US FBA fulfillment fee changes. This goes over everything. I mean, so it still has the peak fees. I think what he was specifically looking at was the fulfillment fee chart. So that fulfillment fee chart is going to be different than our peak fee chart for each one of these. I think
Can
that's
you show the URL? I want to see if it's the same.
He put it in the chat with us. I think that you can share that, Todd.
Yeah, you can share that URL.
I'll put it in the live comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think he was probably, I'm guessing, I'm wondering if he was under fee preview changes, maybe? No.
Okay. Yeah, so it is a different letter codes at the end of the URL though. So he is on a different page.
Well, and what I will say is I did a quick check on the news as well while we were kind of chatting about this, because I was like, that seems really odd that someone would do that. And I do see that they don't have the under peak season. They did have a article earlier in the season talking about the fee changes like they do every year, but that's not here this time.
Yeah.
Okay,
Even though I saw it this year. So
I'll tell you one thing. So Aaron may have searched for what a seller would generally search for, right? Because what did he say? Look, search for fulfillment fees, right?
yeah, was
Fulfillment fees,
that what he was saying?
Yeah. So a general seller may not know to look for peak fees, and so maybe you can't find it unless you search for peak fees. I'll tell you. So this is one of the issues. Like, and maybe one of my acquaintances.
Here it is.
Oh, you found it?
Yeah. So what he did is so what he did. Oh, I'm sharing the wrong screen. So he went to fulfillment fees. Then he has clicked on the first one, which is just FBA fees, which that will bring you to the overall of all of the different fees you can have. And if you just click fulfillment fees for orders.
Yep. There they only have the one.
Yeah.
So he was just looking the wrong area, which happens. But
absolutely. I mean, there's so much data on here that Amazon could conceivably hide data behind data.
Oh yeah, that's the bigger problem that we should talk about here, is just that Amazon is bad at relaying correct information at all times.
Yeah.
Like this post absolutely just shows that.
So absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
If you do searches for help and stuff like that, man, you have to sift through so many junk results that are like not even relevant in many cases, right? And I think if they introduced Rufus, or as one of my friends lovingly dubbed it, Doofus, which, by the way, I think we should that's a thing. We should call it Doofus from now on. Like, oh, did you use Doofus to find that product?
There you go.
But
real quick before you keep going, Dana, I know you need to jump off pretty quick, so feel free to do that whenever.
Perfect timing then. Look, it was a pleasure being here, gentlemen. Would love to come on again. Great talking to the guys. And I hope to see you all again, and have a great rest of the show.
All right, dude.
Absolutely.
See ya.
Guys.
Bye.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
mean,
Dana.
So
yeah,
I'll
go
give
ahead,
I'll give
Jackson.
my opinion on that.
Yeah.
So basically, first of all, I think we've just proven it's complete outrage bait, maybe intentionally or maybe just because he wasn't looking in the right place. But
I
the
don't think
reality,
intentionally. I don't think
yeah.
Aaron would intentionally
Okay.
deceive
Well, I don't know
anyone.
him. Yeah,
But
I don't know him, but yeah.
Yeah,
So
I know him. I
unintentional.
know him quite well.
Okay.
He's a very boisterous and an outspoken guy.
Okay.
But
Yeah. It seems
yeah.
a little hyperbolic to me. Will they go down in January? Duh. Of course they will. But here's the thing. They put yourself in Amazon shoes, right? It's just basic economics 101. Like it's an election year. We don't know who's going to be in office. Their policies are going to affect the price of gas. Gas impacts the cost of shipping.
Mhm.
Why would they try to predict what their costs are going to be when they don't have to? They can wait for a month, right?
Yep.
Or they can wait a couple months.
Good
They don't
point.
have to,
Very
you know,
good
it's
point.
just basic, right? It's not anything mysterious why they wouldn't give this stuff out. So it's whatever, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes me go back to the first news that we were talking about with the low cost store. I'm sure Amazon is really sweating bullets as to, Trump or Kamala, because we know pretty clearly where they both stand. Trump's like, we're shutting down China. Kamala's like, bring them in kind of thing. So I'm sure they've got to be sweating on that a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
They'll
That actually
benefit either way, I'm sure. So
What was that, Jackson?
they'll figure out a way to benefit either way. So
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. They'll either
yes.
Yeah, exactly. That actually brings up a conversation I just had with Afalabi. Do you guys know Afalabi? No? Todd, do you know Afalabi? No? Oh, okay.
Doesn't sound familiar. No.
Okay. So Afalabi, he owns Hanu Worldwide, Hanu 3PL, and Tariff Terminator.
Okay.
And we were talking about that, the fact that the election, no matter who gets in office, there's going to be some wild things going on in terms of import fees and duties and all. That's the same thing, but duties, right?
Yep.
And so we were talking about Tariff Terminator and how he goes and finds the best tariff codes, HTS codes to use when importing your product. And 60 to 80% of the time, he finds a better code that will reduce your fees. And then he monitors it for any changes. I think that's going to be something that people need to like. Amazon's always going to charge out the wazoo, right? And that's just the cost of doing business. So I think that, you can get upset about having to pay more money, which is fine. Absolutely. Like Amazon is always the one sticking it to us, right? It's still, no matter what, it is still the best place, the best marketplace
for sure.
A huge amount of products, probably most of them, right? So I think that sellers need to be looking into other areas to locate where they're missing their profit. That's a whole whole thing that I'm doing at Ecom Triage is where are you leaking your money? Most people don't know because they're just Amazon sellers, right? You did not grow up in business with logistics and all of the things that go into these big businesses, right?
Jackson knows all about losing money on logistics. We help people with that all the time and see horrible things that people are doing with their logistics.
Yeah. I think that's where people need to go. Duties, so you've got the price of your product, right? And then whatever terms you can get with your factory. You've got your logistics, and a big part of that logistics is going to be your duty, right?
Yep.
And so if you can save money on any of or all three of those first parts, every penny you save there is pure profit to your company later.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember too that the tariffs aren't going away. As much as like Biden and Kamala talk about how horrible these tariffs are that Trump wants to implement, they basically eliminated none of them that he had put in before them. They kept almost all of them. So yes.
Yeah.
So they're basically saying what they have to say because they got to look like they're disagreeing with Trump, but
Right.
they're not going away.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But yeah, so that's why you want to do like, figure out where are you overpaying on that sort of stuff.
Yes, it's important because there's usually more than one tariff code that your
Yeah.
product can fit under.
Yes.
At least that you can get away with enough that if you do get stopped in customs and they're like, oh, you should be this one, you can legitimately say, well,
Oops.
this is why I thought it was this one.
Yeah.
Don't be selecting some crazy. If you're bringing in clothes, don't be selecting, fishing rods because it's a lower tariff.
Mhm.
That's a little too far, but there's inside those tariff codes, there's various different ones that will have a higher and lower, and multiples usually can match your product.
Yeah, and it goes even beyond that. There's tariff engineering. I just found out about this. So these big companies, in order to get the lowest possible tariffs, they'll do tariff engineering. So it's like Afalabi explained it to me like this. It's like making a sandwich. Like, am I importing bread and importing tomatoes and importing lettuce and meat, or am I importing a sandwich?
Yep.
Right. And so it's possible to get significantly lower tariffs because you can match these other things up together. Right.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense when importing my my fishing rod cases, for example. There are tariff codes that the tariff differs greatly based on the composition of the outside of the, what material the outside of the case is made out of.
Yeah.
And it can be the difference between like a 6% tariff and a 15% tariff.
Yeah. So my blankets, my freight forwarder on my blankets used a home goods comforter tariff code, which that is not what my blanket is. I have a nylon shell. And I have either down or synthetic fill. Now, down and synthetic fill, like that's fine. That's in every blanket, right? But my thing was that my outside, my casing was nylon. It was an outdoors product, not a home goods product, and so I was overpaying on my tariff code.
Oh wow. Okay, so they were selecting the wrong one on you, making you pay more.
Yeah, because it was just a blanket, right? But a blanket's not a blanket. It's not a blanket.
Yep.
So anyhow, I threw it off there, but I just wanted to point out to people is like, yeah, go ahead and be pissed off about the changes in fees that are happening, no matter your opinion or feelings on the matter, and go locate other areas where you are overspending.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, let's touch on this last article here, and this is more general business advice. Whoops, where did it go? I took myself off. There we go. So Nish shares key insights after a year of building his Amazon agency. And I thought they were pretty good insights that anybody starting their business can learn from. Starting with the impact of high taxes, particularly in the UK, but of course we have relatively high taxes here in the US, not as high as the UK, but they're pretty high. But in the UK, as much as 40% of profits can go to taxes. And also he talks about competitors overselling to win the customer and then under delivering. So they pitch good and then they don't deliver. But how clients a lot of times will end up coming back to you if you focus on quality, over deliver, under promise kind of thing. Running an Amazon focused business demands continuous time investment, endless task lists, and resilience as new challenges like listing suppression or co-founder disagreements are constant. Above all, he emphasizes that consistency over passion is crucial for long-term success, reminding sellers that progress takes time and daily commitment. Which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I read that little post and I was like, each one of these are power truths. It's like I've seen it where I've had clients come to me and be like, we got another agency and they pitched us this and you're screwing up this and you're screwing up that. And then they hire the agency and it was all hype. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, awkward, right? And totally when it comes to just sustaining, you know what I mean? Just sticking to it. Cause I don't want to get into the crazy theories of human psychology and how things uptrend and downtrend, but every business is like a stock and how it performs. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's not just going to go straight up. You're going to have problems outside of your control. Like, COVID was a logistics nightmare for everybody. Shipping costs went through the roof. You can't predict for that. And so you're going to have a downswing, even if you did nothing wrong. Yeah. And then there's going to be upswings where you didn't do anything magic. You just caught a trend, or all of a sudden the word of mouth exploded. And then that trend's going to fade and it's going to feel like you're losing and you got to build something new. And every business has got up and downs. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like anybody's personal life. You're going to have bad years. You're going to have good years. You're going to have bad months. You're going to have good months. And you got to be able to stick with it and just get through it and not feel like you're failing or like, oh, okay, everything's great. This is perfect and forever. And all this success is everlasting. You know what I mean? It's never like that. So
I can second that so strongly, because when I started on Amazon and we were growing 20% a month, that was for
you're on the top of the clouds, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, that was going to happen forever. I was retiring.
Yeah.
Right. No, that is not what happened. And this actually goes into the taxes part of this too. I was spending like I was a millionaire. Turns out that all the money that you make, you don't get to keep it all.
Yeah. Especially when you make more and more, right?
Yes, exactly. So the more you make, the more you have to spend, unless you can, rather than talking about tariff engineering, tax engineer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And that's a whole thing on its own. And boy, I've had some hard lessons learned on doing taxes and stuff like that. And, like a lot of people probably don't realize that. And full disclosure, I'm not a tax advisor. I am in part a business advisor, but not when it comes to legal stuff. Mm-hmm. But I sold my Rover to my business because it was over 6,000 pounds. I could write off the entirety of it, right, over a period of time. And not only that, but because I genuinely do use that for the majority of my business. My company pays for my fuel. My company pays for my repairs, of which there are many. And that is all pre-taxed. And so that's pre-tax income, right? So I don't have to pay myself income, tax myself on that, and then pay for those repairs, and I can write it off.
Yep. Right.
So that's like gaining for every dollar that I would have to spend as a person, an individual, I'm gaining 40 cents as a business.
It's so hilarious, Dana, that you bring that up, because I literally watched just scrolling YouTube this morning, as I typically do. I watched a short from an accountant channel about why do people buy Range Rovers?
Yeah, because they're over 6,000
and the answer
pounds.
was because they're business owners and they're over 6,000 pounds and
That's
blah,
right.
blah, blah. You can get the tax write-offs. Yeah. And it was just hilarious, like exactly what you're saying, but also a jab at Range Rovers because they're so unreliable.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing. People, I mean, don't get me wrong. Rovers are beautiful cars. They're just beautiful pieces of shit, right?
Yes.
And so, most and a Rover you can get for 70, 80 grand. But if you're going to go get yourself a Mercedes G-Wagon, those are 120. Those are also over. But, if
my Nissan Pathfinder, the Platinum Edition, is just barely over 6,000 pounds, and that runs around 50,000. So
so people think that you have to buy these crazy cars. You don't. You can go get yourself a Suburban. You can also get a vehicle under 6,000 pounds. The last time I checked, you just can only write off 50% of it rather than 100%.
Yeah, they just changed that, I believe, last year.
Oh yeah.
And before that, it was 100%. Now it's 50%. So they
Mhm.
took that away a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, again, this is another perfect example of the fees are going up. Where can you be not spending money you don't have to, and where can you recover money where it's recoverable? That's that's why I sold my Rover to my business, is so that I didn't have to pay myself to then go for this expense, this life expense, right? And so that's free money in terms of not being able to expense those expenses and not pay taxes on them, and not have to pay myself, pay taxes, and then pay. So,
Yep.
well,
Well, that's kind of like, my wife and I would like to be able to move into kind of like a farmstead or a ranch that
yeah, we're
has maybe
looking.
an acre or two where we can have chickens and garden and all that stuff.
Yep.
And so what I'm looking for in a perfect world, what I could find is a house with a couple acres, and then a big shed that, maybe 3,000 square foot shed or something like that, that I could rent to my business.
Yeah.
That would pay my mortgage essentially.
Yep.
And, I wouldn't have to be paying this money to a third party. It'd be coming right back into my own pocket essentially. So.
Yeah, you'd have to pay taxes on that, but yeah, absolutely. Dude, I fully support that. Absolutely. And so we've been doing that for many, many years. So, when we wrote off, we work from home, right? But we wrote off a lot of that home. So take, for instance, my office here. We do it on square footage, right? So my office is 12 by 12 or whatever it is. Call it 100 square feet. It's a little more than that, but call it 100 square feet. You don't just write off 100 square feet. I, as an employee of my business, need to walk to the bathroom, right? So I write off the square footage of the bathroom and the hallway to the bathroom, right? I also need a staff break room. So I write off the square footage of the hallway to the kitchen and anywhere that I walk in the kitchen, right? As an employee of my business going to make my food in my employee break area. So about half my house gets written off.
And you need storage in your garage as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's another, what would that be? 400 square feet, roughly 400 or 500 square feet that you can write off and pay yourself rent for that. Right.
Yep. Of course, these are all US based.
Yes, that's true.
And I don't know. Some of these similar things might exist over in the UK, but I have no idea.
Yeah, same. But yeah, I mean, it's once you start making money, real money, you have to figure out how to keep it.
Yep. Yeah. The taxes are your largest life expense. Even if you don't realize it, even as an employee, taxes are your largest life expense because you're paying income taxes on the money you make. And then you take that money and you buy products and pay sales tax. You're paying property taxes, whether you own or rent, because if you're renting, it's built into your rent.
Yep.
Taxes are the largest expense anyone ever pays.
You got to register your vehicle.
Yep. Registration fees.
So,
taxes are built into the gas to pay for
lots of taxes.
Climate change.
All that stuff. On another funny note, I was talking about what I saw on YouTube this morning. I watched a video because apparently Trump came out with 2 new policies to appeal in the last couple of weeks here. And one of them is he's considering abolishing the federal income tax and replacing it with different tariff policies. So
that would be awesome.
I was like,
there's
no way he could get that to happen because that would just be too good. You know what I mean? Like, I love that it's being talked about as potentially something on the block for maybe future generations to consider.
I think he or a couple of other people have said this before. We're going to get rid of the IRS. Like,
it's like I never thought I would get Ron Paul and Donald Trump. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Like you think that you're going to get your ears shot off, buddy.
For sure. He would definitely be taken out. if he attempted to do that. But if we were able to eliminate the income tax in this country,
Oh my gosh.
the
Imagine
success
what
of
that
this
would-
country would
Yeah.
explode.
Just
No
go
one would ever
bonkers.
touch us.
Yeah.
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 Maybe
It's such a
maybe
waste.
we'll live to see it. Maybe we'll live to see it.
Oh, that would be awesome. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to hold my breath on what politicians say,
I know.
no matter who it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
He still would have to get it through Congress, even if he wanted
Exactly.
to do it.
Yeah.
And
I'm just
there's-
happy to hear maybe it's going to be in the zeitgeist of what people are
Yeah,
talking
talking
about.
about
Right?
it is, but I think there's way too many bought and paid for politicians to actually make it happen. But
still,
who knows?
still a lot of swamp in there left to get rid of, right?
We can
Yeah.
hope and pray. We'll see. So yeah, we're over the hour here. I just wanted to touch on real quick the passion is overrated and consistency is underrated.
Amen.
I
Because
agree with that.
everything in culture is about follow your passion, find your
Mhm.
passion, do what you're passionate about. And that's okay advice. But when you're building your passion, even if you're working in a passion, you're building a business around it,
Mhm.
there's going to be a lot of days that suck. And you got to keep consistently following up when you're not passionate about the stupid things that you got to
Yes.
do to make the business a success. And
Yeah.
so I think that was one of the biggest ones that he talked about was don't only focus on your passion.
There's going to be a lot of passion destruction when you're dealing with a real business.
Big
Where
time.
you go,
It
oh,
can
this is
be-
great. Like when you're on the clouds, right? And then a bad thing happens. You're like, I hate this. I don't even feel like doing this anymore. This sucks.
Yes.
And
It can
you have to-
destroy
yeah.
your passion around, like,
Yeah.
fishing, right? Is my passion. And sometimes selling fishing products and dealing with everything, it's like, man, I hate fishing.
Fishermen suck.
yeah.
Yes. I still love it, obviously, but you get
Yeah.
what I'm saying. It's
Yeah, I do.
it can destroy you in a lot
Yeah.
of ways. And you gotta make it a passion around building your business and doing what you got to do to grow it.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
And always be
Passionate
learning.
problem solver.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll never
And
run
you've
out of
always-
those.
Yeah, you've always got to be
Sure.
learning, and you have to pay attention to what's going on. Jackson, you actually mentioned something earlier: the business always going up and down and up and down.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to say about that is that you have to be able to read trends.
Yeah, for sure. That
It's
helps a
not
lot.
just many business owners I've spoken to, many sellers, most sellers are like, yay, I'm making money. Shit, I'm losing money. You have to look at trends, right?
Mhm.
If you cannot read a trend, you can't predict the direction you're heading,
Yeah.
because it's not one day, it's not 1 week, it's not 1 month.
Yep.
It is monthly or quarterly or yearly, and based on those trends up or down overall, you have to make changes
Mhm.
to prevent either a downturn or support an upturn.
Yeah,
Yep.
that even happens on a within like a monthly basis where sellers will be like in their peak season for the first go round of a new product line and not realize, even when it's just like basic common sense, like in summer people are using this, in winter they're not, and you
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
And then you still think, oh, as we move into the fall, we're just going to keep chugging along. Nothing's going to slow down. It's like,
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wishful thinking.
yeah.
It's easy to do that when you're worried about things. Just, I hope sales keep going the way they're going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other
easy
thing is
thing to do.
not big. If you can't predict some degree of prediction of the future based on trending, then you can't prepare for what comes after.
You're gonna
Yeah.
be like Sideshow Bob with all the rakes. You know what I mean? You know that scene? You know
Yeah.
that scene? Anyway.
Yeah.
Look it up
Yeah.
if you don't know what
Yeah.
I'm
Keep
talking
stepping
about.
on the
Sideshow
rake.
Bob with the
People,
rakes.
The
It's
Simpsons.
hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh,
All right, guys. Well,
Cool.
this has been fantastic. I appreciate you guys joining me.
Yep.
And everybody out there watching, I appreciate you watching the show. We'll see you next Friday. Amazon Seller News Live, signing off.
see you guys.